If you're watching this video, then that means Latios or Latias or even both of them are now in raid battles, and you are looking for a comprehensive guide on how you could defeat either one of them. Well, look no further than this video because I am going to be giving you a comprehensive guide on how you can defeat either Latios or Latias in raid battles. Alright, so without further ado, let's get right into it. And how's it going, everyone? It's me, it's Count, here with a brand new raid guide video. Today we're going to be covering two different Pokemon, and of course I'm talking about the EON Duo Latios and Latias. Both of these Pokemon are Dragon and Psychic type legendary Pokemon, and if you bring the right counters, you will be able to defeat them with the least number of trainers as possible. The nice thing about both Latios and Latias is that they have a plethora of different weaknesses, mainly because they are Dragon and Psychic type. And of course, this combination is not as versatile as other type combinations, so yeah, there's just a plethora of different Pokemon that you could bring up against these bosses, but I'm going to be going over the most effective ones. Now, what Pokemon you should bring against either Latios or Latias is going to be determined by what moveset it has. Of course, when it comes to Latios, there's going to be a lot of different moves that are going to be very strong against different counters. But if you add a lot of variants to your different teams, and if you have a lot of different backup teams, then you should be good to go. Considering that both Latios and Latias have just a lot of different weaknesses, you could have multiple different teams for every single one of the movesets that you could go up against. First up, let's talk about Latios. His move pool can consist of either Zen Headbutt or Dragon Breath when it comes to his fast moves, and when it comes to its charge moves, it could have either Solar Beam, Psychic, or Dragon Claw. Now, just on the surface, you could see here that if you are using a whole bunch of dragon types, then you're going to want to avoid Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw, considering that this is one of the highest DPS dragon type move combinations, and on top of that, Dragon Claw is extremely difficult to dodge. Yes, if you use a whole bunch of Pokemon like Rayquaza and Dragonite, you're going to get your whole team melted down. But fortunately, you could go with a whole bunch of Psychic counters like Dark types and Ghost types to mitigate some of that damage. I highly suggest you go with Mega Gengar. It is a very powerful Mega Evolution going up against this boss. It's definitely going to make a difference when you're going up against Dragon type moves. And even if it has the Psychic type moves, Zen Headbutt and Psychic, you're still going to do okay. But of course, there is one dragon that does resist a lot of Dragon type moves, even though it is a Dragon type, and that is, of course, Dialga. Dialga is going to survive a lot of Latios' moves, so you can bring a whole bunch of Dialga as long as you have a bunch of good ones. But I would argue and say that Dark types and Ghost types are a lot more readily available, so if you do not have a whole bunch of powerful legendary dragon types in your arsenal, then you can opt to use any of those. Again, the nice thing about the EON Duo is that they just have so many different weaknesses, so it really doesn't matter what you bring. Just bring the highest DPS of any of your counters, and you should be good to go. Out of Latios' move pool, I would say that Zen Headbutt and Psychic are going to deal the most neutral damage, but when it comes to Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw, that's the one you're going to want to look out for, especially if you top load your team with Dragon types. So make sure you have a full team of good Dragon types in case you're going up against Zen Headbutt and Psychic or Solar Beam, and make sure you have a full team of Dark types and Ghost types if you're going up against Dragon Breath and Dragon Claw. But again, like I said, Dialga is the one Pokemon that's going to be so well-rounded that it really doesn't matter what moves Latios has. Dialga is still going to be a very formidable counter. If you are going to bring Dialga, just remember that his best moveset is going to be Dragon Breath with Draco Meteor, so make sure you TM your Dialgas to have these moves and make sure they are at least level 35. You should be good to go if you have a full team of Dialgas, but you could also opt to use any of the other Dragon types as well. And if you're opting to use Ghost types and Dark types, you could use any of the usual suspects. Of course, Mega Gengar is one that I mentioned earlier, but you could also use Darkrai and a whole bunch of other Ghost types like Chandler. They're all going to do really well against Latios. The perfect CP for Latios is going to be 2178, and if it's boosted, it's going to be 2723. And when it comes to Latios, he's only going to be boosted by one type of weather boost, and that is of course windy weather. Latios is a little bit tricky to duo, so I highly suggest you go with at least 3 or 4 other trainers. That's going to secure the win as long as all of you are at least level 35, and all of your Pokemon are level 35 as well. Next, let's move on to Latias. Latias is of course going to be very similar to Latios. The only difference is that Latias has a lot harder hitting moves, but of course Latias is a little bit more well-rounded considering that it has less attack but a lot more defense, so you will want to bring your hardest hitting Pokemon going up against this one. But the counters and weaknesses are pretty much going to be the same. You will want to go with a full team of Dialga going up against Latias, and of course if you're going up against Dragon Breath and Outrage, then you will want to use a whole bunch of Ghost types and Dark types instead. Now, one of the moves in Latias' arsenal, which I find to be a bit of a tricky one, is of course Thunder, and that is because most players will opt to bring Rayquaza up against Latias, considering that Rayquaza has been in raid battles the most frequently, so a lot of players have a whole bunch of them, and then of course Rayquaza is the glass cannon when it comes to Dragon types. But of course Thunder is going to be strong against Rayquaza, considering that flying type that it also has, so rather than risking it, I suggest just going with a whole bunch of Dialgas or a bunch of Ghost types and Dark types. Just to reiterate the counters, I would suggest going with Mega Gengar and a whole bunch of Dark types, or you could opt to use Mega Gengar with a whole bunch of Dialgas. Any of these are going to do really well against Latias, and yeah, it's pretty much a cakewalk if you bring any of these Pokemon. Now, between Latios and Latias, Latias does have a lot more defense, which means it's going to be a little bit tougher to take down with small numbers of trainers, so I highly suggest you go with at least 4 or 5 other trainers for a total of 5 to 6 raiders. Latias is weather boosted exclusively by windy weather, much like Latios, and it is going to be perfect IVs at 2006 CP, and if it's weather boosted, it's going to be 2507. These are the magic numbers for the perfect IV, so if you're going after a perfect IV Latias, then those are the CPs you're going to want to look for. Now, as of recording this video, both Latios and Latias have their shiny forms in-game, and of course, because Latios and Latias seldom get released in Pokemon GO, this is a prime opportunity to collect their shinies. Considering that their shinies are going to be a little bit more rare compared to other legendary Pokemon, they're going to be a phenomenal trade chip to use in lucky trades and different things like that. So whenever both Latios and Latias are out, I highly suggest you raid as many of them as you can. In terms of significance in the meta, Latios and Latias do not really have that big of an impact. Like, they're going to be more of a secondary option if you're going to use them in raids, and if you're going for something like a unique challenge or different things like that, then yes, they will be quite useful. But otherwise, there's always going to be better psychic types, and there's definitely going to be a lot better dragon types, so you do not have to stress out if you do not get the perfect IVs, but they're still worth getting just for the collection value of them anyway. But yeah, there you have it, everyone. This is my guide on both Latios and Latias. Let me know your thoughts down below. Was there a specific tip that I missed? Definitely share them, and of course, if you have the shiny form for either of these Pokemon, definitely share those wins in the comment section below. And yeah, I really hope you found this to be helpful, and if you did, make sure you hit that like button and subscribe if it's your first time here. I am Jinsula. Be safe, have fun, and I'll catch you all later.